All right, we are going to be diving into neurotransmitters today. Neurotransmitters, you might be thinking, why is this important for hormones or health or anything? In fact, they include this on your Dutch test, which is a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. The very last page of the report actually goes over what some nutrient levels are and neurotransmitter levels are. This is just an example here. You can see B vitamins, by B12, B6, glutathione, checks your biotin, does a gut marker, all that stuff. Well, when we look at this and dive into some of these other markers that we're looking at, it actually checks dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and then it also does a neuroinflammation marker that I did want to talk about briefly. So I'm Dr. Beth Westie, women's health and hormone expert. I'm author of the books The Female Fat Solution and The Female Menopause Solution. These are found on Amazon. I'm also host of the podcast, The Female Health Solution. You can subscribe to that, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel and find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So I'm all over all the places, giving information, hopefully helping you understand more about how your body system works so you can make the right decisions and what next steps to take to help your system function better so you feel better. Now, when we look at this here and look at dopamine overall, dopamine is your happiness neurotransmitter, and they measure it by looking at a marker for that dopamine through the urine. It's sort of like a backwards way of taking a glimpse at what your dopamine levels are. Dopamine is dependent on a lot of things in your system. Gut health, bacterial balance in your gut, things like that, as well as nutrient levels, iron, copper balance, stuff like that. One of the biggest connections, though, that I see is its relationship with your adrenals and cortisol response. All too often, I see a Dutch report that has a decreased metabolized cortisol level, meaning your adrenal function is really low. And hands down, 90% of the time, I will see a dopamine level also be really low. How this is described a lot of the time to me is that you just feel kind of blah, kind of meh, right? I had somebody say that she used to feel like a sunshine person. Happy, upbeat, all that stuff. And since her hormones got all messed up and everything else happened for her, she's like, I just feel overcast. I don't feel like me. Very much the case, right? Norepinephrine, epinephrine, this is related to your adrenaline response. So sometimes this can be elevated. Now this is made from dopamine. So if you're thinking, well, if I have good levels of dopamine, I should have good levels of this. I mean, we would hope so, right? But there are a lot of times that having levels of norepinephrine and epinephrine be off can impact your overall mood response, things like that. There are times where you can be triggered into anxiety issues, have issues with motivation, issues with cravings, stuff like that, mood swings that's related to your neurotransmitters and not related to your actual mood, right? So we go over this on your report and make sure that you can really connect the dots in terms of how you've been feeling and what we're seeing. Because if you have been feeling stuck and frustrated in a body that's not responding and you're like, I don't know why I feel like this. I don't know why I keep doing this. I don't know why I have these bad habits. It might be that your neurotransmitter levels are not at a level that are actually supportive and helpful for you. So keep that in mind. Now, norepinephrine, epinephrine, in terms of what we do to help this out, there are some nutrient recommendations, sometimes supplement recommendations. It does depend on whether it's high or low or whatnot, because there's different things involved there. But always, always, always making sure that you're regulating your nervous system, doing things like yoga, walking, deep breathing, all those things. Meditations, really, really helpful for your system. You're never going to go wrong there, right? But other specific recommendations are really tailored towards you and what your levels are specifically. The last marker I want to talk about that we see on a Dutch test is a neuroinflammation marker. They're actually testing for other inflammation in your system. Now, this can be from something that is sort of big and bad and out there. It can be from having exposure to a toxin, something like mold. I've seen it be elevated from people that have had Lyme disease. I've seen it be elevated from being exposed to a lot of chemicals. There was a gal I worked with that she worked in a factory, right? And she worked in a factory near a place where she was worried about this. She was worried about her exposure to toxic chemicals because of where she worked. And sure enough, her numbers, and it sticks out in my head actually because she had some of the highest neuroinflammation markers I've ever seen on a report. This will impact your body's ability to regulate on its own. If you have this inflammation, again, I don't care how much you're supplementing. I don't care how clean you're eating, right? If you are continually exposed to things your system cannot get rid of and you're having this inflammatory response, it will have a negative impact. And those are the things that we need to target and improve. So, knowing this information, understanding what is on your Dutch test, knowing what you need is really going to be the best thing for you moving forward. So that's what I got for you today. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Go below this video. Leave me a comment if you have questions. If you're not comfortable commenting, always feel free to send me a personal message or an email, because I know that it can be uncomfortable, you know, sometimes asking certain questions. I get questions from women all over the world every single day. But of course, there's going to be a link here below this video where you can learn more about Dutch test and having one sent right to you.